Howdy guys, Rex here. We are live on YouTube, probably, unless the censorship is continuing all day this morning. We've been struggling with uploading video onto Instagram and Facebook, and I did verify in the news that that was in fact a organized campaign to shut down patriotic speech. And before we get to the point of the video here, I'd like to share with you a couple little snippets some of my compadres shared with me. Okay, here's one of the deals. Recent posts from patriots are currently hidden because the community has reported some content that may not meet Instagram's community guidelines. There it is right there, okay? That put me on Superfly TNT mode immediately. Before that, of course, I was wrestling to get stuff online, and you know, sometimes you have glitches, but it was interesting how it was selectively being blocked with Patriot networks, particularly in certain gun channels, which are outspoken on certain matters. And Mrs. Rex is actually cooking supper back there, so don't mind that deal. But I found it interesting this morning, struggling with that. You know, there's certain things that happen to a guy in life that make you think you're going to eventually calm down a bit and mellow out. Well, there's certain things, sorry about that, guys. There's certain things that occur actually sometimes make you a little bit more attuned to what's going on in the world. And you realize that your perspectives are shaped by what you have in terms of future commitment. Now, what in the heck is beeping over here? This is live TV, guys. You never know what could happen here. Let me kill that deal. Live TV, guys. We'll get started in a second. Hey, Jordan. Yeah, your oven's going off. I'm live right now. Kate. Mrs. Rex is a doll. She puts up with my stuff. Live stream. You never know what could happen. Phone could ring. Crazy guys can knock on the door like I had the other day. They never ever cease their operations, guys. While we're sitting here barbecuing and drinking beer and having a good time, they are never ever going to stop. And their best interest or natural point of aim is not preserving what you might have grown up with, which is the good old red, white, and blue. And so I would like to share something with you guys today. Maybe this seems boring to you. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But this is something that I think is important for every one of us to read at least once a year to give us a general perspective on exactly what's going on in real life, okay? So I'm going to read you a little story on what happened actually July 4th, 1776. A bunch of guys got fed up and they had the balls to write this letter to the current world authority at the time, and this is what they said. You guys ready for this? Okay, here we go. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bonds which have connected them with one another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and the laws of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinion of mankind requires them that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Okay? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, right? That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to those ends, it is the right of the people to alter and to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not change for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, okay? It is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such now is the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. Okay, now they're going to list out all the stuff that they had to suffer, this is what they wrote down in July 4th, 1776. He has refused to ascend his laws, the most welcome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation until the assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend them. He has refused to pass other laws for accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, right inestimable to those and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with many firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time alter such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, and the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. Okay? He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of the new appropriation of lands. So he was selectively enforcing how the immigration would go, okay? He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount of payments of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without consent of our legislators. He has effected to render the military independent and of superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution, unacknowledged by our laws. Does this sound familiar to you guys? Giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murderers and which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by a jury, for transporting us beyond the seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English law in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it once as an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves investing with the power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is, at this time, transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with the circumstances and cruelty and purify the scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens to take captive on the high seas, to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves to their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us. Does this sound familiar to you guys? He has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, this ain't politically correct, but whose rule of warfare is undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. You read about King George's War, how he bribed certain tribes and different people to actually wage war when it wasn't really their will. He paid them off. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress of the most humble terms, and our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlements here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, okay, and have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. Now these guys are smarter than we are nowadays, right? We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, small u, capital S by the way, in General Congress, assembled appealing to the Supreme Court of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies ought and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is ought to be totally dissolved, and that free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may have the right to do. And for the support of this declaration, with firm reliance on the protective of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our honor. Okay? That's what happened. Here's the document. This ain't the actual one, right? And a couple of things to notice here, guys. This is very interesting, okay? So you can look here. This is in Congress, July 4, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 united, tiny little letters. You see that part there? United States of America. It was set up a little different back then. And of course, down here, you guys all probably know the story, okay? After they drafted this document, it was so radical. And actually, one of my forefathers, or what do you want to call them, my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpas, had a rant in a bar, or so I heard one time before this was written, and a large part of that rant in that bar, when he had too much beer, became a portion of this document. But there was a lot of people that were scared to sign this deal after they wrote it because they knew that if they put their name on this document, they would lose everything. They would lose their property. They would lose their families. They would be hung and probably tortured to death by King George, right? And so it was a scary deal. And it was highly unlikely that they would win. The British Empire was the most powerful empire of the day by a long shot. You know, they said the sun would never set on the British Empire. So that was one hell of a commitment and one hell of a set of balls that these guys had. Everyone kind of, lollygagged and said, man, I don't know if I want to sign this deal. Finally, one guy who established the precedent for having balls, John Hancock, went up and signed his name boldly and clearly on the document. And according to the legend, everyone else came forth and signed it as well. So that's something that when you're lighting off your firecrackers and, drinking your sip of whiskey or having your beer in the backyard enjoying the 4th of July, I want you guys to remember what those firecrackers represent, okay? That was gunfire and the ordnance expended to destroy the lives of the forces of tyranny so we could establish this country. That's history. That's not Rex's opinion. That's not me making any call to do anything crazy. It's nothing like that. That is reality. And that's what founded this country, was some people who were fed up with this deal decided, hey, we've repeatedly petitioned for peace and we've repeatedly tried. We've bent over backwards for these guys, and they still have this imperious attitude like they're going to boss us around, and they have no natural right to do so. And in the beginning of the document that we read earlier, they even say it's the natural God-given rights. It's not like you automatically are born from some person and you have some piece of metal on your head that's made out of gold and you're in charge of everything. That's not how this deal really actually works, okay? And so they had a different set of beliefs and they wanted to shake that off. And they put their money where their mouth was and their ass on the line, and by some kind of crazy miracle came out on top, and we won. So now we are independent. But it's interesting how the cycles happen, guys, and we'll open it up for questions and answers at some point here if you guys want to visit a little bit on the long range topic or anything else we got going on. But I wanted to share that with you first. But if you look at how far they bent over backwards to try to make peace. A lot of these guys, they had to even during the drafting of these documents and the prelude to the war, leading up to the Declaration of Independence, a lot of these guys had nothing, they didn't want nothing to do with this deal. And it wasn't until finally the king's men confiscated their house that they were finally pissed off enough to actually put their foot down. Interesting case study in history. The experiment of liberty that the United States has kind of set into motion and the momentum that we have created, and a lot of other countries have followed that as well. And you can see the benefits that have happened when a people becomes free and doesn't have to be accountable to some dude over the ocean that you don't even know who he is, who's just born there and all of a sudden he's in charge of everybody. It's not how it works. People have the natural God-given right to exist independently and govern themselves. And so that's what happened on July 4th, 1776. That was in Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken, and they got together and they actually got this document together and they signed it and they mailed it off. And once you put that envelope in the mailbox, kind of like remember on The Simpsons, Bart Simpson mailed that envelope for Homer, and then it became like this big scary deal to Mr. Burns or whatever. Even more stress than that, guys. And that's kind of what got the whole ball rolling on this experiment that we now currently still are benefiting from, okay? And to a lot of folks who maybe haven't been around, they might have a different attitude, but that's what happens when you have great men who establish a good momentum in a direction, and they bust their ass to build wealth, they create a country, they do all these things, they have the Industrial Revolution, all these great things happened. But after the wealth comes, their children are a little bit spoiled. And those children's children are even more spoiled. And then when you get to the 4th generation, they're completely foobar, man. They're almost completely useless. So like that little rich kid on that movie, Willy Wonka's chocolate factory that wants that golden goose egg or whatever the hell it is. I don't remember the movie. I don't watch the movies too much, but we become incredibly spoiled. And when that happens, it's got to go through the cycle again, okay? And I don't think that a lot of people realize what it took to establish that momentum. And like I said before, man, if you don't understand how great this country is, or if you got a debate on that, and I know a lot of intellectual people got the little narrow glasses that sit there and they, they theorize on how these things work, and maybe they've even been on a cruise, like on a tourist ship someplace, and they think they understand how the world works because their professor or their mommy told them how it works, or they watch television and the television gave them the infinite wisdom to know how good it is everywhere else. But if you actually go to other places, guys, even some of the good ones, and you get back home here, we have it very, very good. We're very safe, we're very secure, and if it's so freaking horrible, why don't you move? I'm dead serious. Like, put up or shut up, man. Like, these guys don't want to have the, what's the Betsy Ross flag on the shoes, or I don't even know, I don't even watch the news. It's ridiculous, okay? And now here we are, in 2019, okay, and we have a situation of digital censorship that is rivaled by that fictional, supposedly, it's actually an instruction manual, the book 1984, and all this stuff written by George L. Orwell and these guys. If you look at it, we are there. We've just been sitting comfortably in the water. And everyone's too damn scared to say anything about it, too. You're so scared you don't even want to lose your social media status, because our entire life revolves around this little square deal here. See that little square deal right there? That we look at, this piece of plastic that blinks at us, and our entire identity is tied to this piece of plastic because they've completely brainwashed us into being helpless vassals that are attached to this thing made in China, that's hooked up to the digital tube coming from Babylon or wherever the hell it's coming from. God knows who's on the other end of this phone pumping this garbage into our brains continuously. It's actually 21st century unconventional warfare, and they're hitting with us 24/7. And if we can't even speak up and utilize our First Amendment rights to grow some balls, oh, I don't want to offend anybody, I don't want to get a strike. Well, okay, then you totally deserve what's going to come. Because if you don't do that, if you don't speak up, if you don't put your John Hancock on the piece of paper, man, you're going to be toast, buddy. This deal doesn't last forever. This is actually a magical situation. It's highly irregular for a country in its current form of government to last this long. 1776, and it changed a lot in the 1860s. But if you look at the United States of America, it's still under the original Constitution. That's a long time. We're kind of like way past its life expectancy. When a volcano goes way past the date for eruption and guys start hearing the seismic tremors, that's kind of where we're at, man. And so in all honesty, I think that maybe some people need to wake up and smell the coffee. And unfortunately, if you look at the series of events and the circumstances that surround us in this community, and some people have given me hell for it because I'm outspoken for the truth, particularly when it comes to our own guys. Now, at least the other side, okay, is doing their part and they're loyal to their cause, okay? And the other side, I don't know who they're linked up with. I know the history, and I ain't going to say who that is because it's semi-rhetorical, but it's really not. If you look at the infiltration that's happened in the education system over the course of about 70 years in the United States, it's not surprising there's a huge Bolshevik influence on the education, and people are coming out like little parrots and drones, and then they espouse as an opinion something they saw on their blinking little TV thing that they have here, and they quote that like that's their own opinion. They're basically biological androids without a will of their own, repeating what the system told them to repeat. And then they look everywhere else to make sure all the other little sheep are doing it. And if they are, well, then they're on board with that great plan, right? And so that's what we're standing up against. And half the country is very different than the audience of this channel. I'll tell you that, guys. I grew up a little bit naive. I grew up in a part of the United States that is probably 50 years behind the rest of the country in terms of the downslide into oblivion, okay? Like, when I was in grade school, We could take a revolver to show and tell, and it was fine. And so like where I come from is a little bit different, and everyone up here's got squared away. You don't see a lot of violent crime. There's not a lot of break-ins. You don't got a lot of gang activity, and you sure as hell don't have a lot of problems that you see in the rest of the world where dudes don't have jobs. The climate's so severe where I'm coming, you would die if you didn't have a job, okay? Immediately within like 9 months of living here, because it's too cold. You can't just not have a job. You have to like do something, okay? And so the culture that I've been raised in and that a lot of my audience has been raised in is radically different than what a huge, the center of gravity of the country is. There's a lot of spoiled people that didn't really have to do anything, who inherited all this great wealth and financial and comfort momentum from their families and their fathers and their mothers. There's a lot of people in suspended adolescence who are 30, 40 years old who have no idea what the hell it even means to be a man because they've inherited everything that they've gotten. They didn't have to work for any of it. It was handed to them on a golden platter. And then they idealistically might understand the concepts of liberty and freedom, but they never had to put their ass on the line ever for it. And so it's something interesting when that situation occurs and when that becomes a center of gravity of a country and it starts sliding down the hill, it's very difficult to reverse that snowball effect. And that's something that I think is important for us to understand. And it's interesting. Here's a conversation I was having with one of my compadres earlier, okay? We were talking about why don't people stand up? There's like, me and my cats roll a little bit different. If we see something we don't like, we speak up. I don't care if someone gets offended. I don't care if it gives me a social media hit. I don't care if it costs me money in my business. I will speak the truth regardless of whatever the hell happens because that's our job on this planet, okay? But a lot of people who are good people, who idealistically would share our values, are scared to do that. And you know why they're scared to do that? I actually don't know why they're scared. I think they're scared of maybe death. Maybe they're scared of losing their cash, getting taxed, getting harassed, losing friends. Dude, here's the fact of the matter. Nobody makes it out of this one alive, man. Nobody. You think you're going to live to be infinity years old? Nobody makes it. So it's only the quality of the life that you actually live which determines your legacy and what you stood for, okay? And honestly, would you rather die in a nursing home being 190 years old from, whatever kind of deal that could have happened when you could have stood for something once in your life? And I'm not saying anything radical here. I'm just saying as a general principle in life, what is there to be scared of when death is guaranteed for everybody, okay? So you gotta pick something to live for, man. And you gotta throw your butt at it. Don't be scared of them. What are they gonna do? Take away your birthday? It's a little bit of a pep talk here. But that was the attitude the founding fathers had when they created this country. And there's a certain amount of mercy that God has, I think, on the country, and a certain amount of luck for sure that we have still accidentally maintained our control and our power and our hegemonic position in the world. But that stuff is actually contrary to what the founding fathers envisioned. We weren't supposed to be the world's superpower. We were supposed to be leading from a position of our works. Not by forcing everything, but by leading from the front in terms of innovation, industry, trade, good relations, and that's something that we kind of lost touch with. And we think that now we're responsible to be the policemen of the world. And I understand that, if there's nobody else to do those good things, it's a heavy duty responsibility to take. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but the times have changed tremendously. And there's great expenses for diving into the filth of all that other stuff when a guy doesn't need to. And I commend, the people that made those decisions, if they were clean decisions, although a lot of people do make a lot of money sometimes when they do stuff like that, right? But in all reality, the center of gravity of the entire population of the country is vastly ignorant of reality, okay? They're unaware of the forces of gravity that are going to pull us down. And that's something that I think that, unfortunately, is the truth, okay? Now, I don't know if I want to even say this part. There's a lot of guys in the gun community, a lot of guys in the patriot community who will definitely hold these same truths to be self-evident that I'm espousing on now, and they would agree with me 100%, but they're going to observe it. They're not going to dive in and actually get into the action. They're going to sit there and they're going to watch it, maybe on this channel, which is great. They're going to watch it on the TV. They're going to maybe type something, and that's maybe as far as that deal will go. But most people are really scared to like dive into it and actually get their hands dirty. And what I mean by that is like First Amendment, okay? Going out there and speaking your piece. Whether that some guys don't have anything to do in terms of a job, so they run for office. That's usually who you get for a politician, is guys like that. That's a good way if you're a good person to do your service. If you're busy trying to build America and do other things, then you have to at least speak your piece. You have to go out there and stick your neck out and at least say something. And you can't be scared when you're sitting at the restaurant with your friends, your family, etc., to hold back if your convictions are true, if that's really the facts, and they don't want to say anything. They don't want to get their hands dirty at all, but they will observe it and they will complain about it secretly. What I think happened, man, is I think that there was this thing invented called television, okay? And television later evolved into computers, smartphones with TVs on them and all this stuff like this. And we have been reprogrammed to observe reality digitally through pixels. And so we can watch videos of dudes getting hit in the head with pipes by whatever group it is of the day, these crazy Antifa guys or whoever the hell is doing stuff like this. We can observe these things on YouTube. We can observe it on the nightly news. And we just kind of like, oh man, and you sit on your couch with the feed bag attached to the front of you, eating your potato chips, but you ain't gonna get off your butt and actually say something about it or actually go and do anything. And so that's a majority of the people that are even our brethren, our good guys, the guys that know better, right? And I think the reason for that is they've reprogrammed our brains to be observers of reality. We simply have been watching all this horrible stuff happen for so long on devices like this, to where when it actually happens in front of our real eyes, we just continue to observe and chew the cud and eat the popcorn, okay? And that's not gonna frickin' cut it when it comes down to the brass tacks. And so I would encourage all my brothers and sisters to actually get out there and be active and don't be shy, to at least share I'm not saying you gotta get radical. I'm not saying you gotta get Western. I'm saying you just gotta you gotta share the enthusiasm, man. You can't be shy to share your enthusiasm for the United States because you think someone's not gonna like you. That's bullshit. You gotta go out there and you gotta stand tall. And you don't even need to be obnoxious about it. You can be a gentleman, a nice guy, right? And you can comb your hair and everything like I did before this video, right? And you can be a super nice guy and you can explain why it's great. And if you don't understand if you're one of these guys who's watching this, and I do have several friends who are maybe on the other side of the aisle who watch for entertainment value. If you disagree with that, okay, smart guy, I'm gonna buy you a freaking plane ticket and we're gonna go on a little tour and I'm gonna watch through binoculars. And I'm gonna give you a little objective that you gotta go and buy a pineapple from the local market. And if you make it back in one piece with your current attitude and your current layout, with this great cultures that exists everywhere else, I will give you a freaking a gold trophy if you make it back to the plane in one piece, okay? Because there's a lot of places in the world that are not so good. And the United States of America is just like, I can't even explain it to someone who hasn't seen it, okay? It's the best country, in my opinion, that exists on the earth. We're very, very blessed to be here. For all the naysayers, please private message me immediately because I'm going to make a show about it. I will make a reality TV show showing all these guys that think that America sucks, go down to the Moog and buy me a freaking package of bananas from Barkar Market or wherever, okay? Or in Tehran someplace, or in Saudi Arabia, or even one of the nice ones, like Bahrain. Yeah, go try that one. See how it works out for you. Or and I don't need to get too radical on that. Even you can do it in West Europe in some communities, man. It's just not the same. We're very safe and secure where we live. And it's not that I don't like these other places, but we're very blessed. And I think it's important for us to go ahead and share that enthusiasm and stand tall and continue to be strong. And part of being strong means you're not a pussy when it comes to sharing the joy that we have inherited to live free in a state of liberty, even with all the digital censorship going on this weekend. Dude, they, I almost blew a gasket when I found that out, that this post here, when I was trying to upload all my stuff, my hashtags. So I'm learning how to run Instagram, right? Because I hate computers. I haven't had my first smartphone I ever owned was in 2013, guys. I have not been in the matrix. I've been busy doing real life things before that. But now that I am in the matrix, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be like Keanu, and I'm going to inject myself into the matrix, and we're going to go ahead and see what's going on in there and fight the battle in there. And you type in hashtag Patriots right here, guys, and you get a message back from Instagram saying it violates the community guidelines. The word hashtag Patriots violates your community guidelines. Well, what community might that be, smart guys? I want to find where these guys are and go knock on the door and have a conversation with them. You can see where, I mean, even like the president has been notified of these deals. And I think there was something, this is a video we're going to have to do sometime soon, sharing all the various ways that they try to usurp their control, intimidation, and censorship techniques on guys like me and my compadres who are in not only the gun community, but particularly the patriot side of the gun community, which is a different end of the spectrum. It's cool to show guns and, and whatever, do reviews and all that stuff. But when you start doing what I'm doing right now, and you start talking about the reality and the momentum of the country and trying to get people excited to do stuff, they don't like that. And there is a lot of stuff they will do to really try to mess with you. And unfortunately for a lot of them, they read off the bullet points list of their manuals, which I also have copies of and I read them. And so it's funny when they do their little tactics to try to scare you or try to shut you down or digitally shut you down. And it's like, dude, I already have read that. Like, you need to get more creative than just reading the bullet point out of your manual and not even adding any flesh to it. It's like they hire people with an IQ barely above freaking room temperature to come and harass a guy. So I will, at some point here in the near future, do a video, maybe talking about some of them stories. And actually, I already got some of them logged in various ways, just in case anyone wants to whack me before I upload any of that stuff. I'm sure I'll get about 9 phone calls tonight, like I usually do when I start talking like this. Like, oh, you better calm down, everybody, Well, yeah, okay. But in all reality, anybody that swears an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, better freaking keep that oath. Some people it's cost a lot more than their jobs or their 401k or their status of getting a cool job someplace. Okay? I'm dead serious about that, by the way, too. If you say your oath, that's your word, and you're only as good as your word. And if you have to feel like you're cool by being part of a giant gang to team up on these little guys with all your giant technology and all the stuff that you do to try to put down their free speech or try to harass and intimidate them out of doing what they need to do, that's bullshit. And you're a wuss compared to guys that stand boldly in the face of that. Because congratulations, you're in one of the biggest gangs in the world. And you're picking on one guy by himself or some guy over there or whoever it is. And those of us in the Patriot YouTube outspoken community, especially the guys that are doing some of the gun instruction stuff, know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's no bullshit either. We could tell stories about that. Now, will I maybe reveal some of that stuff? Well, we shall see. But Donald Trump did actually ask for people to log that because he wants to know about it. He wants us to put it on public record. And so he actually did a request for us to kind of reveal what some of those different things are. And digitally speaking, this is small potatoes. Them censoring Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube and looking at the algorithms and adjusting what is visible has been going on for a few years now, at least 4 years. And there's ways that a guy can maybe get past that if you're creative on how you create your hashtags, how you label your channel, etc. Certain guys have been knocked off the bridge for a little while because they've been outspoken. But there's creative things you can do if you understand cryptology and how they do that with the computers to get past that stuff. But the proof that it ain't running like it should is that those guys are running around doing what they're doing. And so that's another topic too that I think people ought to really get bold about. Go ahead and make us think about it, guys. You always got to be able to use your First Amendment before you use your Second Amendment, okay? There's a lot of guys that want to use the Second Amendment immediately in the community. And I would tell those guys to hold their horses just a minute, because a lot of these guys who want to use the Second Amendment can't even tell you what it is. You ask them to quote it to you and they can't even tell it to you, okay? Now, my guys that come and take the training, we all talk about that subject, and by the time we all separate, we're squared away on that deal. So my guys that come to Rex Defense, we all concentrate very heavily, not just on the Second Amendment issue, but also on the First Amendment issue and understanding how to battle those things in the First Amendment realm, because that's the only path to peace. And I vastly prefer peace way more than I ever would want to get in a fight. People don't understand what would happen if you hit the reset button. Here's another thing about July 4th, 1776. When they started the United States of America in the 1700s, it was a Puritan culture, okay? It was a very Christian culture. It was very moral. And the Founding Fathers, some of them even stated, like, a constitutional republic is only good to govern a moral Christian people. It's totally inadequate to govern anybody else. That's actually true. For the guys that want to start throwing lead everywhere immediately right now and not participate in this First Amendment battle, which we're talking about right now, if you hit the reset button in 2019 and redraft everything, you're going to redraft those parameters on the 2019 culture, which sucks compared to the 1770s, man. It's not going to run very well at all. It's going to be like 1,000 times worse in a best case scenario outcome. Even if our side were to win somehow, it's still based on our twisted 2019 values and everything that comes along with it. So we're still coasting on the momentum of our forefathers, which was actually a really squared away, good, intelligent demographic, okay? And so that's not really the best plan either. And so on this July 4th, I would like to encourage all of you guys to get freaking loud. And I'm not talking about your firecrackers, I'm talking about with your voice too. And don't be scared to share the enthusiasm you have. If you're a patriot and you love the United States of America, you love your country, do not be scared to share that. I'm talking social media, okay, because that is the loudspeaker nowadays. Nobody, like back when I was young, you'd go down to the parking lot wherever all the kids park their cars and they'd all smoke cigarettes and BS or whatever they do down on Main Street. Nobody does that anymore. Everyone's sitting in their living room on one of their little plastic blinky mind control boxes. So if that's where they're at, well, then you got to get on there and speak loudly on that then, okay? That's why I'm in here, okay? I don't want to be in here. This thing I would love to throw in the river. And someday that will happen. As soon as I reach escape velocity, man, and as soon as I made enough of a dent, or hopefully, maybe, they will kick me off the internet. If I get crazy enough one of these days, they will kick me off the internet, and I will throw this damn thing into the river, and I will smile and never look back. Like I said, my first one was in 2013, dude. I do not need that to live. In fact, it is... I want to be Amish. Is there any Amish people out there that need some loud guy to be part of their deal? I would like be the worst Amish guy ever, but I'd have a huge amount of fun doing that, I think. Going back to the basics, man. I mean, it's just like, oh, how I long for peace. And it's not that we don't want peace. We want to preserve the peace we have. And sometimes in order to do that, when the burglar comes around the door sneaking at 3 a.m. with the crowbar in his hand, you got to freaking start barking like a really loud, angry dog at the door to make him run away. Otherwise, if you let him get all the way in the living room, now you have to wrestle him. Who wants to wrestle a criminal? Just scare him away by barking first. So the First Amendment battle is incredibly important, guys. Okay, we are live on YouTube, and we can now take questions. Any of you cats want to visit a little bit? Oh man, holy smokes, you guys have been talking the whole time. I'm just going to pick up immediately right now. Whatever you said before, I cannot see those comments, and we will pick up right now. We do have some current events coming up here. Oh, when the boogeyman comes around, grab the Glock in the booger hook. Hey, I got to go down to Winterset, Iowa on one of my journeys. I come back from Missouri, and I actually got to see the birthplace of John Wayne on my way through there. That was pretty cool. I actually got to see the .47 Walker pistol that was used in the movie True Grit that little girl had. I don't know if you guys have not seen the movie True Grit lately, you have to watch that. There's epic scenes. One of my favorite scenes of all time, Growing up on, speaking about staring at the blinky mind control box, we were all, anybody in our generation, that's what I'm talking about. But at least back in the 50s and 60s was that it was a bait and switch operation. So that was the bait part of the operation. It got you hooked on it and they switched it later. But there's a part where the Duke is in court and the lawyer is asking him, because he's a federal marshal, when you pointed the gun at the person, was it loaded and cocked? And John Wayne's like, well, a gun ain't good for nothing if it ain't loaded and cocked. So there's a lot of good scenes like that a guy can pick up on. A lot of good one-liners. What's for supper? I think we're going to have steak and broccoli. I think that's what's for supper, guys. I got an idea. Remake America, making God's entire law the law of the land. I would love to see that. However, that's not going to happen by us. America, if it were a country that followed what God said to do, would be equipped to do that. America is not a godly country. It is actually a very pagan country. And I'm not talking smack against pagans. At least they're loyal to their own religious precepts. But America is not a Christian nation like it used to be. And so if we hit the reset button now, you'd reset it in 2019 values. That's my humble opinion. Best Western movie villain. All right. In the movie, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, what was the guy's name? The guy who played Liberty Valance. Super famous old actor guy. He was a World War II vet guy. That's the not Marlon Brando. Lee Marvin in the movie Liberty Valance. Best bad guy in a Western. Where's King Josiah when we need him? Have to fight to keep it, and God always finds a way to remind of that. Lee Marvin, yes, Lee Marvin, thank you very much. So I'm reading the comments here, guys, if you guys don't know what's going on. James Stewart, yeah, Jimmy Stewart was in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance too. It's actually a really good movie, guys. Like, there's some old school good stuff. James Stewart came and he started preaching the Constitution, little town that he comes in, he's a lawyer guy, but then he doesn't understand the value of Western justice when you need it. And so John Wayne had to educate him on this. Oh, yeah. So we got a few events coming up very soon, guys. For those of you who have not had the chance to attend one of our Rex Defense events, we're going to be in Western Idaho in Boise coming up later this month. So if you guys want to come to the RX seminar, we do have a good time. I do make it the most entertaining classes ever in terms of long-range rifle. But actually, we cover a lot of information that nobody else covers. And I think that with confidence, I can say we're one of the best outfits in the world for espousing on how internal ballistics interplays with a lot of other things and how to organize your ballistic tables and how to integrate the entire firing system in a field expedient way. There's other outfits that do a great job in other ways. But if you want to learn how to operate a rifle in a field expedient way, that's our forte at Rex Defense. So we will be in Idaho, Boise, later this month, and then I believe Denver, Colorado after that. RexDefense.com if you want to check it out. Are we going to have a CCF class? All right, the CCF class is the Combat Command Fire class, okay? And that is basically a sniper class, okay? So we don't call it that for various reasons, but it's we have one in Texas, I believe in the fall. And if you guys want to sign up for that, we actually run all three classes simultaneous, level 1, 2, and 3. It depends on what you want to learn. If you want to come in and learn how to do the stock and do the spot reports and do a fire mission, then you can sign up for that portion of the class. If you want to be like counter sniper type deal or do like observation or from the defensive point of view, then you sign up for the other level of the class. And then the third level is really something special. We do that by interview only because there's stuff in there that we're not just going to hand out willy-nilly. So you'll have to interview with us if you want to take level 3. If you've already taken one of the other 2 classes, I think that maybe you would be ready for level 3. So anyone who wants to learn how to actually put the meat to the road, the rubber to the road, with your precision rifle against a sophisticated set of observers that is like going to really sharpen your skill. Dude, like it's easy to sneak up on stuff that ain't thinking you're there, okay? That's very easy. You can basically walk within rifle distance to something that doesn't expect there's something to be there. But when you sneak up on me and my guys, we're like waiting for you to come, and it ups the game tremendously. And we come after you with drones and thermal and really, really good sets of eyeballs of guys that are excellent like at spotting guys sneaking up on them. We got a lot of professionals from different areas that we bring in to assist in those. So the Combat Command Fire class guys, if you've got a seminar under your belt or anything else like that, the seminar is the Master Key course. That'll get you into the rest of the courses, okay? So if you've got a seminar under your belt, that's your vetting mechanism to get into all the other classes. And the seminar covers a huge amount of information. It's the master upload. RexDefense.com is where that's at, if you're asking here again. All right, what else we got? Yep, it'll be in Road 10, Texas. That's like rattlesnake capital of the world, or like 20 miles away from it. Definitely. All right. Have I been reloading lately? No, I have not. I have been on the road. I drove like 7,000 miles in the last couple days, guys. It's been ridiculous. I have not been reloading. Hey, Rex, you up for some feminist ORC mud wrestling? You guys trying to get me kicked off the internet early? I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know what that means. All right, George Washington quote. Only shoot when you see the whites of their eyes. And then me, I just got a good pair of binos, just saying. Yeah, the 4th of July is not about eating hot dogs, guys. It's about shooting the forces of tyranny in their face to establish a free country. Okay? And I'm not saying we should do that. I'm saying we already did it, so now we can enjoy it. Now we play with firecrackers to remember that, okay? So I don't want you guys to ever forget that part. And I've been drinking water, if you believe that or not. I'm almost out. It's actually most dangerous when I drink water. People think that when I'm totally 100% on water, that I'm actually not. And actually that's when I get most dangerous and obnoxious. Or coffee is like the devil. Coffee is horrible. Lexington and Concord. Yeah, I know. Let's not let that deal happen again. You guys are good cats. You are my beloved compadres. For those of you who have not had the chance to come visit us at one of the training deals, the RX seminar is the world-class download of that master's degree knowledge when it comes to wide spectrum shooting. We talk about not only just F-class or PRS, NRL, or military or tactical applications, we talk about everything, but we talk about the science of how they're all executed. And we're one of the few outfits that will recognize how to balance out your priorities correctly for each one of those subsets, okay? We got a diverse perspective of experience on that all those topics. So a lot of guys might come at it from like one angle or the other. So we can handle and wrestle a lot of cats in one class at the RX seminar. And it's evolved a lot for those of you folks that have been in maybe just that first year, 2017. We did a couple seminars there. The seminar has drastically evolved since then. So I'd love to encourage you to come back out. If you call Mrs. Rex or contact her via the email on the Rex Defense webpage, she might even get you hooked up. If you're an alumni of a seminar already and want to retake the class, she might hook you up with a little bit of a deal. Okay, guys? Oh, man. I don't want to leave. I want to hang out with you forever. You guys are my favorite. And to my loyal compadres, I would say happy 4th of July, I guess. Although when that document right here actually got signed, I don't know if they were happy. I think they were more pissed. So, you know, the colloquial English that I can, you know, conjure up here on the situation, have a nice, pissed 4th of July, gentlemen. All right. If I can find the button properly, I think I will catch you guys on the flip side.